Hi, my name's Lucia Cardamone and I'm Sales Director at Nutrimetics. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my story. This is Lil Radojevic and we're both going to share with you our story. I personally grew up on a dairy farm with my parents and my three brothers, and we all had jobs to do. You know, mine would start at 5:45. I'd get up and make the coffee for my dad to before he'd go and round up the cows, and then I'd be milking cows morning and night before and after school. And then, as it turned out, when I was, and I did my schooling, in the country. And then as it turned out at the end of year 10, we found out that there wasn't going to be a year 11 at my school. So I then headed off to a boarding school in Melbourne on my 15th birthday. I did year 11 at the age of 15. And then I then repeated year 11 and then did year 12. And when my marks from year 12 weren't good enough to do what I wanted to do, I then worked Friday nights and Saturday mornings, had been working Friday nights and Saturday mornings actually at Myers, where things weren't crash hot on the farm for a little bit there when I was at boarding school. And so I had been working Friday nights, Saturday mornings to, get some extra money. And it was when I was there that they asked me if I would like to do a 2-year cadetship in retail, given that I wasn't going on to do what I wanted to do after year 12. So, and I absolutely loved living in the city. So I didn't really want to go back to the farm. Loved living in the city. I loved my job at Myers. I absolutely loved being a buyer. I was a junior buyer. At the time, there wasn't a buying office as there is now. So we did all the buying from the reps off the floor. So I used to buy men's gloves, scarves and handkerchiefs. And I loved it. And so there were so many things about that. And the fact that I'm like an early riser, the girls know, Lil knows I'm an early riser. I like to get up early. And so I would get into work really early and get my department all set up. It was a whole area of the ground floor in Burke Street, and I'd have it all ready by 9 o'clock. So we would be ready to serve. So what and it really disappointed me that I started to really resent my job. And what I started to hate about, not that I really hate anything, but what I really disliked about it was I really disliked not getting paid because of how old I was. Like I thought I worked harder than most because I came in really early. So I, like I said, used to set up, but because I was 19, I didn't get paid what everyone else got paid. I couldn't take my holidays. I had the last option of holidays. So I'd like to go away on holidays around Christmas time. I couldn't do that because other people had priority. I didn't like the gossiping. I'd go in and I'd work with these people. They'd gossip about the people on that counter. Then I'd go over there to work and then they'd be gossiping about those. And I used to walk away. I used to really dislike it immensely. And so, and the other thing was, the people that I worked with, like I had done all the preparation and these other people would come in like 1 minute to 9, like just zooming in through the door. And so it used to really, after a while, it really, really disappointed me. And then one night at the end of the first year of my cadetship, I was living in the house with my girlfriends. And we were like sisters. I mean, really, we, went to school and lived with each other for all those years. And, one night this guy knocks on the door and it was a door-to-door salesman. So he's selling saucepans and he's telling us all about his saucepans. And I'm kind of, we're all having a laugh at what he was doing. And as he was walking out the door, he actually said to us, look, you guys, I can see you're not into saucepans, but maybe you might be interested in skincare and having a free facial. And so we said, yeah, absolutely. So I rang the lady to come and give us a free facial. And we did it kind of as a bit of a laugh more than anything else, to be honest. But when she came, she was a young mum. She, was driving a company car. She had just come back from Hong Kong and Penang on her first overseas trip. She loved what she did. She spoke so highly about the people that she worked with. She, she shared the products. We loved the smell of the products. These products were never tested on animals, never had any animal derivatives in them, but she just loved what she did. And I just honestly just sat there and I just said to her, what do I have to do what you're doing? And she said, oh, you just buy this kit, you just, just buy this kit. And I bought the kit. The kit was worth more than my week's wages at Myers, but, it didn't matter. The boyfriend at the time was sitting in the room and he offered to pay for it. So I bought, got this kit. And so, I start going to training and all these people are helping me and supporting me. And I just copied what they did. I just literally copied everything that they did. I copied what they wore, how they dressed. I had no idea. I had one pair of pants and two different shirts that I used to wear to do a demo, and then a different shirt to do a delivery, So since I joined, I have enjoyed a lifestyle that was unimaginable. Like, it was just not on my radar. I was never, ever going to have this lifestyle. I have traveled to every part of the world, all over the world, traveled in magnificent style, and I've driven some magnificent cars. I've met the most amazing people, and I continue to this day to work with the most extraordinary women, who have supported their families, paid for their school fees, who have enjoyed incredible lifestyles themselves. And I've learned, what I've learned, since joining, that there's some questions that I needed to ask myself when I went into something. And that was, was it simple? Well, yeah, it was pretty simple. I earned income two ways. One was on what I personally sold, and the other was by building a team. Will someone help me? And I have had the most amazing, incredible support from my uplines, but also from Nutrimetics. Will I have fun? Well, if you delve into the photos from all of our international conferences and our trainings, you'll get to see some very, very funny photos and, some stories that, what happens at seminar, stay at seminar, yeah? And then, the other thing, was it the right time for me to join? And I can tell you that there's never, ever, ever, ever been a better time to join Nutrimetics than right now. So how I feel about the future, well, I can just say to you that I am so grateful that I have always been an early adopter. When I could see that things, where there were changes on the horizon, like, I'm one of the first to go, hey, I need to do that. I'm so glad that I persisted with starting on Zoom some 5 years ago, that I'm so glad that, even though there was resistance, I'm so glad that I persisted with that. I'm so glad that Nutrimetics themselves as a company has been at the forefront of technology and has embraced all the technology platforms, so that we now, all of our trainings, every single consultant, no matter where you live in Australia, no matter which little town, which country spot, which location, as long as you've got a computer, you're able to be part of our training. So I'm very, very grateful and super excited about the future. What about you, Lil? What's your story? How about you share with the girls a little bit about your background?
Well, my story starts with me coming to Australia when I was 4.5 years old from Croatia. So as a child of immigrants, it was a very, very different childhood, but full of richness of culture and love and song and fun and all those sorts of things. And, we were very, very, my parents were very, very traditional. So, my mother, I lived with my mother and father and my grandmother and grandfather. It was that typical European, bringing, home, being brought up that way. And being European, most of the women would always use, things like Nivea. Like, I'm sure some of you, growing up, Nivea was the face cream, or Pond's or something like that. And so when I was 13 years old, I distinctly remember my mother left the house to go to a party. And I was like, what sort of party is this and why aren't I going? And she said, no, just for ladies. you know, and when you sort of, think back, that was a really big thing for a European woman to go to a party. It happened to be a Nutrimetics party. That was her first, direct selling type experience. And my mum came home with this exquisite bottle that was about this big, and it had the Nutri-Rich oil in it with this big spatula and a thing called avocado eye oil and Nutrimoist. Now, I'm not really sure, if you can actually grasp how huge that was to have something like that come into the household. So I can actually say that from a very, very early age, I was exposed to, the best skincare there was. And now I'm just about to turn 58 next week. So and I always get comments of, that I don't look my age, that my skin's so good. And I would definitely say it's because I started with Nutrimetics when I was, 13 years old. But then, life changes, like, Lucia. So I met the love of my life very early, and we got married, had a child straight away. And as when you get married and starting your first family, there were a couple of things that happened. You get married, you build a house, and you go broke. Literally, literally in that order. And so one of the first things that went out of my life and out of my routine and all the rest of it, and I always say this, it was Nutrimetics, because now I had to buy it for myself. My mum wasn't buying it anymore. And so there was definitely a couple of years where, my self-keep, my self-worth, all those sorts of things definitely did go on the back burner. But during that time, I finished my teaching degree. So I'm a teacher by trade, and I was a language teacher. And then I worked my way up and I became a consultant for the education department. So my role as the LOT/ESL, which is English as a second language consultant, was that I suppose my job was to implement LOT into every state school from Geelong to the South Australian border. I was in charge of over 200 schools, and making sure that all those teachers had the resources, training, etc., etc. Very, very, high powered and all the rest of it. And it was really funny with how I got involved with Nutrimetics again, because before I became a consultant, whilst I was still teaching, just before I became a consultant, we had an emergency teacher come into into the school, and this gorgeous lady called Debbie Watkins. And we just started chatting, chatting. What do you do? And she said, oh, and by the way, I do Nutrimetics as well. And I said, oh, Nutrimetics, my God, I haven't had Nutrimetics for years, and then I told her the whole story, how I used to use it, growing up, and now that, money's a little bit tight, I don't use it anymore. And she said, you know what? You should have a party, because if you have a party, you can get all your things for free or, very, very cheaply. And I go, great. And it was really interesting because I became her absolute model hostess, because every time she'd ring and say, oh, Nutrimetics has got this great dressing gown as a hostess thing, I go, yeah, I'll have a party. Because out of all my friends, I was the only one that had a house, because I remember I got married early, and so it was an excuse for all my friends to come over. So I would have about 4 or 5 parties a year. And to this day, I always say I have every dressing gown, every what the Nutrimetics ever had as a hostess, as a hostess reward. And Debbie would always say, you know what, Lil, you should do this. Okay, Deb, don't even talk to me about it. I've got, the full-time job, 2 kids, make it 3, including the husband, just haven't got time. But she never gave up. So she was always there for me, and always, every time she saw me, you should do this. And I was the no, 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 I will just buy off you. I will just continue having the parties and all the rest of it. And then life changes like anything. So when I became a consultant for the education department, look, to this day, I still say I'm a teacher at heart. And that is my strong point. That's what I'm able to bring to the table and all the rest of it. However, the system really, really changed, really changed. There was a lot of political difficulties at the time, a lot of political changes without going into politics and all the rest of it. But cut a long story short, I was working because now I was a public servant. Okay, so that was really interesting um, going into the consultancy role, because then I had to have public servant hours. But there was a directive made, because of course my job was to work directly with the teachers. But there was a directive made that no teacher was able to do any professional development during school hours. So what did that mean for me? That I had to be at the office at 8:15 every morning. Public service, I think it was like 4:36 or something like that, where the hours stopped. And then my day would have to start again, because teachers didn't finish till 4 or whatever. So then I would have to make my appointments, go to do the meetings at schools and all the rest of it. I didn't come home at times till after midnight. And remember, I was in charge of schools from Geelong to the South Australian border. So many times I was away for many days on end. My hours were anything from 60 to 80 hours a week, but you don't get paid any more. So it's not unlike your story, Lucia. Overworked, underpaid, and undervalued. That's how I was starting to feel. And then I made the phone call. Again, I remember distinctly sitting next to my phone at home, and I made the phone call. I said, "So, Debbie, tell me about Nutrimetics." And she said, "I'll be over in half an hour." She was there, and in those days we had what's that thing called? When you transfer, copies. Like if you sign, and it's been so long.
Duplicate copies.
Duplicate copies.
Carbon paper.
Carbon paper. It's been that long. It's been that long. And her direct words to me were, "Sign here, press hard." Because she obviously saw something in me that I didn't think that I, had, or, even wanted. And even as I'm signing, I'm saying to her, "Yeah, but I'm only going to buy, I'm only getting this kit so that I can buy my products for myself at a cheaper rate. And, if there's a little bit of money, to be made, that'd be great." And when push came to shove, where I knew that I could not keep up my, 80 hours a week anymore, I did the sums. What was it going to take? Because technically I had another career and another job, in my hands. And I was already a car driving manager when I made the move. So I did the sums, and I realized what I needed to do, which was not going to be an extra 80 hours, I can tell you, to be able to replace my income. And can I tell you, that was the turning point of not only my life, but for the life of my entire family, because all of a sudden mum was at home again. I was able to take the children to school. I was able to pick them up. And guess what? They actually got home cooked meals. I was able to cook again. And we became a family again. So, that was one of the first things that I had to thank Nutrimetics for, was to, thank them for giving me my life back and what really mattered to me. And that was my family. Absolutely. There is no doubt about that.
Mm.
So as I mentioned, being a teacher and being a consultant, and, my job was to, give people information and all the rest of it. That's my strong point. That's what I absolutely love doing, not only with my customers, but especially with my consultants and my downline. So, we pride ourselves in being able to give the best possible training. So it doesn't matter whether you don't know everything about skincare and all the rest of it. We will teach you, we will give you those tools. And as Lucia mentioned before, the systems that we have in place for regardless of what you need, the systems are there. And thank goodness we have a leader such as Lucia, who put us on, the platform of technology to make sure that all that information is at everyone's fingertips, so to speak. And we have an amazing team of managers and consultants and leaders where we all contribute to that. Because remember, everyone has different teaching styles and learning styles. So what you may not get from one, you'll get from another. And there are so many platforms for you to explore. And that is such an exciting thing. And now with, everything that's going on in the world, and, it is about technology. It is about, people don't want to know, yesterday, or I'll look it up for you. No, they want it now.
Mm.
And when you join our team, the information is there. It's for you, whether it's hands-on, whether it's a phone call, remember the good old phone call? We're always there for you. So there's some of the, just that's a little bit about me. And I've just celebrated my, how many years was it, Lucia? 29 years.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, 29 years. So who would have thought that 29 years ago, I sat on that step at home and made that phone call.
Yeah.
And you could be like me, where it's like, no, it's just easier, just buy it off you. But as Lucia said, I promise you, it is life-changing. So whether it is just to save money, because, that's a help. That's a help. If you can just save money on, your household needs, that's a great help. But if you need money, this is the business you need to be in, because you have full control. You have full control as to what you earn. No one can tell you, oh no, there's a cap there, like you've done X amount of hours, you're not going to get any more.
Yeah.
No. How much you earn, how much you put in, you will get rewarded for that. So
Thanks,
that's a
Lil.
little bit about
That's good.
me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Lil, and thank you for joining our team. And we look forward to seeing you in amongst our learning program as the days, weeks, months, and years come along. And we wish you every success in Nutrimetics.
Thank you.